to start with say something about African new friends. Yeah, this week I had time to chat with some friends, and I got a lot of information which I had never known. So you might be surprised to know that the initial thrust of the Nupresentation at the time, specifically at the time Mariam was active, was to make the Nupresentation a household name. That was their way they were moving. And ostensibly to prove to a canker that there is something different from theirs. It's a new kid on the block. So what dampened their spirit was the criticism that it would soon become a church, and it made them to abandon this drive. And even Mariam was affected by this. So what I heard was that new friends started to accompany their families, their wives, their husbands to church on Sunday, just to have where to go. And you know, Sunday for most people out there is a day of relaxation and meetings of all sorts, especially after toiling on the farm all week, or their 9 to 5 work. So I know Duane may not be concerned whether people take note of what he's presenting or not. But I want to ask whether he thinks the Nupresentation, as it is mostly web-based, is it good for every part of the world, Duane?
Okay, hello, Charles. You made it. Again, people are being funny. The church idea, people have nothing else to do because they're bored. So they go to church because they feel insecure too, probably. You know, that's my guess. Again, everything is demonstrated. Are the birds going to church? Are the animals? Are they doing that? Again, look at the bigger picture. See, people look at their little personal life. That's all they do, is mainly they look at their little personal life and they judge it off of that. I've used the example of the sun shining. Learn to recognize what the sun is demonstrating. It's more than everything, but again, it all comes back to this personal self. So everything equals itself. So people do the same thing. Actually, they shrink within their own personal life. They start shrinking even more, and they expect something to happen to decide differently for them. They keep deciding this. You have to decide to constantly step into the unknown, you might say, and see what's there. Otherwise, you won't. You're just going to see your personal life. So it's not that I'm concerned or not concerned about what people do. It's none of my business, really, what other people do anywhere. All I can do is present it. And on the earth, you know, things are mechanical. The internet, or what we do out there, what we present out there, etc. You know, that's part of it, but the real picture is to see and recognize. And is it that people are getting this? It's about recognition now. It's not so much about mental ideas such as buildings and doctrines and what people say and ideas and, you know, their chats and rumors and stuff like that. These are things that occur accordingly. But to see the bigger picture is unseen, and who can see that and relate to it and do something accordingly. And also, backing up a little bit from what you've said, not here to prove anything to Eckankar. Ekankar is a planned demise. That's it. So anybody that takes over something and then starts to ruin it and makes it worse, well, that's a planned demise. I have nothing to prove to them, okay? Because again, like the sun shining, it shines upon everything, and what's there to prove? All life is already demonstrated. You got to figure it out now. So it's more than just the literal. See, again, backing up, say this many times, what Paul presented, he was the babysitter. He provided the disciplines. Paul talked about problems and the law of karma and the law of this and the law of that, because that was the boot camp disciplines. Now we're into a real position to where you don't need that. You don't need authorities. You don't need any of these restrictions, but people keep going back to their restrictions, Charles. And you're there to provide an understanding, or are you just going to baby them? Well, as you baby them, they're going to stay babies, and that's it. That's the only understanding they're going to have. So it's kind of like, a person grows up to a certain age, let's say 18 here, and it's time to get out of the house, get a job, and pay your own rent. You see? So, or do you keep babying them till they're 20 and 30 and 40, keep supporting them till they get worse and worse and worse, and they can't figure out any purpose that they've got here? So, for the most part, what is the purpose that people, why did they come here? Ask these people, why did you come here? To do the same thing you've done for lifetimes? Is that why you came here? Do you have a purpose? A real purpose is standing real with the all is. That's everything, but you've got to see it. You've got to learn to recognize it and see it. And this is a toughie because, again, people are very emotionally and mentally attached to their personal life, so they're afraid to see it. And yeah, the world is bad, and guess what? It's going to get a lot worse because of what's taking place, because they see us on the real side, what's taking place, etc. So, you either face it or you run from it, and you'll be more so the effect of it. And you'll just, again, I've seen people that pass over to the real side, and you know what? They're still lost. There's no miracle that happens just because you leave this place, or the idea that, oh, gee, I want to leave and go to the 7th level, or I want to go to a happier place. Well, good luck. You are here to face this, and all that is taking place here is to help you recognize what's real. So what you're simply dealing with, Charles, is people that have agreed to distortion. That's it. Again, compare it simply to the sun shining. All that you've considered and all that you've heard and all the ideas that people have, all you have to do is consider it, just compare it to the sun shining. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't, does it? You can make sense of it. See, that's your part with the Africans to recognize it. Well, I'm doing that too with everybody. So when things occur, what I do is I write something or I say something like this again, but that recognition is up to each person. And if they don't get it, they don't get it. That's it. They're still in their la-la land. And basically they got nothing except the ideas floating around their head. Because the whole of life is very real, more real than the sun shining, but the sun gives us, just as an example for for people to relate to, but again, then that's kind of like a fantasy, isn't it? It really is, isn't it? But see, life is so real that it's more than anything you can fantasize, and it sure is way more than anything you consider here that's solid. So yeah, it's a real risk taker position to recognize what's going on. So by the very fact of what I've said and what I refer to and the real side experiences that those that are paying attention have, there is something else, isn't there? And so why would these people go and do all these funny things, go to church and get tap line because they have nothing else to do? I'd rather walk along the beach, or, these Africans, they've got, usually they've got very nice places, or the ocean or the jungle or something else they can do creatively than to just do those old things. I don't do that stuff. It's nonsense. I don't really want to be around those people, etc. It's not that they're bad. That's not the idea. It's not about bad or good. It's about, is there something else to do? Hey, the whole world is dying. So I'm doing everything I can, realistically here and on the real side, to bring something else forward, but you got to learn to see it. So again, Charles, people are still in their same old personal primitive mode, and if you just keep babying them, and I don't mean tell them what to do, I mean you have to creatively explain, hey, look at your situation here, compare this to this and whatever, you have to do this comparison thing. See, I compare what I'm doing with, as one example of, and of many, with what Paul presented, and that was fine for that time, but now guess what, it don't work. And you can read Paul's books and think, oh, gee, these are so wonderful. Well, you're in your own la-la land, emotional attachment. That isn't what life is now. You have to recognize what it is now. Just like in those times you drove a 1970 Chevy. Well, all of a sudden, the 2020 models are coming out. It's a new day. Life isn't what it was. It is what it is now, and it's to be recognized or you don't. And it's not according to this world. This world equals a reference. That's all it equals. And yeah, you got to figure it out. And it is not good here. And it's getting worse. And you got to figure that out too. And you got to face it, or you don't. You go hide from it and pretend it's not happening. Well, then you still got to deal with it, and it gets worse because now you haven't become more aware to recognize how to face it. So this is just how it is. We've all been part of this creation, and now we have to face it, and it can be okay. But you got to learn to be real. And again, the sun, learn to recognize what the sun is demonstrating. Use that as your first reference. You can create your own references, but that's a good one. And eventually you'll start to see what's going on. It's very subtle. But there is no, I wrote a group, we are not therapists, and there's no problem solving here. It's not about solving problems. It's about becoming more aware so you can at least handle it. And in the physical, it's not perfect. Actually, it's so distorted with everything going, just trying to keep up with the weather. Well, it's all manipulated and distorted, and things are happening. So we got to deal with it until you have the awareness to where you can surpass it. So that's the whole idea, is learning to be self-sufficient within your real awareness, more so than just your mind. So you can take vitamins and minerals and anti-aging pills, but that's not it. It's about your real awareness to recognize that. And yeah, that's a toughie because you don't always have time, but you got to learn to give yourself time and take time, or you've got, all you're going to end up with is what you've decided personally here. So yes, you have a big challenge there, Charles. You have a whole big challenge to figure this out and to relay this. But if you keep playing patty cake with them, well, guess what? It's all going to stay the same, and it gets worse is what it does. It only gets worse. I've seen it so many times in trying to relay this. But once you can learn to see through all of this and relate accordingly and do the best you can here, but on the real side, it shows up. It really does. That's the best part. That's your real awareness. So, go ahead, Charles.
Okay, then. Thank you.